Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, what I thought I'd do is look at the filling mechanisms that I have and just do some little comparisons between them. You know, it's one of the things that with fountain pens, there's lots of different mechanisms and, you know, I reckon 3/4 of them I've not even heard of yet. So I thought, let's just go and look at the basic ones that I use on I'm not going to say day to day, but a week to week basis. So join me now, down on the mat, let's jump in and take a quick look at them. Welcome down to the mat. Time to start taking a look at some filling systems. The first one we're going to look at, this is the one that most people find in fountain pens. This is the cartridge converter. So I've got here a Jinhao 992, $2 pen from China, dirt cheap. And it comes with a cartridge converter, and this is a filling system we're starting off with. So most fountain pens, they will take a cartridge converter or they will take a cartridge. Now the problem with this is there's a number of different cartridge sizes depending on the pen. Some of them are proprietary, some of them are what they call an international one. But even the international ones, I find that there is difference between them. So here's some examples. There's 4 example cartridges. But a lot of pens, you can get a cartridge converter. And that's what I like to use. Now this converter, it comes free with a pen. So it's not exactly something you have to pay extra for. There are other pens where you do need to pay extra for the converter. Most of them are about 10 Aussie dollars. So they're not exactly expensive, but it's an extra cost on top of the pen. And one of the things that really annoys me is quite often the pens that do that are the expensive pens. This $2 pen came with a converter. Now, what's the benefits of these? Well, most pens, as I've already said, they can take a converter. You get your converter. If you look down here, there's a little post coming out. The idea is the converter goes in, it fits over that post, and then the ink goes down through a hole in the middle of the post. Nice, simple mechanism. Once it's in, it's usually nice and sturdy. I mean, I'm giving a little bit of pressure and it's just not moving. Same would happen with a cartridge. Let's see if I've got one. This is very similar. As you can see there, it's a lot smaller, but you would push the cartridge in over the post. The post would then pop that little seal and that would then let the ink flow through. What I actually do is I do keep some of these cartridges. I do have some pens that don't take converters. So with those, I find a cartridge that fits. I clean the ink out of it. And then every time I want ink, I just refill the cartridge with a blunt nose syringe. So, yep, takes cartridges as well as converters. It's dead simple to swap them out. As you can see here, I just pull it out. There's some where the actual converter screws in. I like those, but they tend to be on the more expensive pens, but they mean that that converter's not going to move. But these come out easily, and I've never had an issue with one coming out whilst I'm using it. It's easy to carry spare cartridges, so if you're going to be using a lot of ink, you know, there we go. You just keep some of these, obviously with the right fitting, in your bag. When one runs out, you pull it out and you pop in the next one. Then off you're going again. As I said, it's easy to fill these. All I do is take my blunt nose syringe, put the ink into here, insert it into the cartridge, and then gently ease the ink in. I also sometimes do that here with the converters, especially when I've got like a sample vial where it's hard to actually get the nib of the pen down. I'll put ink in, I'll slowly and gently put it into the converter, and then I'll ease that ink into the converter, then attach it. Then I'll leave it stood on end for a few minutes just to give a chance for the ink to flow down and into the nib. Downsides of these, they're very small capacities. You don't get a lot of ink in these. I find with most of my converters, I'm lucky to get 2 writing sessions out of 1 converter full of ink. But that's fine. Most of the writing I do is at home, where I've got easy access to another bottle so I can fill it up. That small capacity has a little bit of a benefit. If you like to change your colours or if you like to change your inks quite often, it's quite easy to do because you're not having to write out loads of ink or, worst case, put it down the sink. You're going to get through it fairly quickly, so you can change that colour quite often. And as I've already said, cartridges, they have got proprietary fittings. You know, here's just 4 examples. I literally just pulled these out of my box, and all 4 have got a different fitting. You know, even this one, if it was going that end, it's still different. So that's one of the downsides. But other than that, as a starter way of going, these are actually quite nice. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to attempt to fill the pen. The ink I'm going to put in this is called Peach Punch. I thought it's a nice colour, hopefully will go nice with this body. One thing I will say, I may struggle to fill these. These are the 2021 Inkvent inks. All the inks I'm using are from that 2021 Inkvent calendar. There were 12mm samples, so I'm hoping that I can get the nib in far enough. Now they're also very thin necked, so let's give this a bash. So what I'm going to do, my converter's in there. I've put that plunger all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to insert it and then see if I can tip this and not get ink all over. I'm going to slowly pull that out, and as that pulls out, it's drawing ink up through the nib and into the converter. Oh, we've got a nice fill there. Just wipe this off. I'll pop the pen back together. Get rid of the ink. For today's holder, I've got Quickie Koala. I've got this and I've got a Dragon one. They were found in a local salvo store. So I just have this. That lets me put my sample jar in and usually stops it from tipping over. And if I'm using a sample vial, which are a lot thinner, I've got this nut here that I got that just fits inside, and then the sample file sits inside that. Cheap, simple solution to a problem. Right, fetching the notepad of testing. This is Oxford Optic paper. It's a B5 notebook. I thought, what's a pen video without actually doing some writing? So we've got here a Jinhao 992. This has got a fine nib. As I said, it cost a whopping $2 Australian. Well, I'm saying two. I think it was something like $1.69, but I like to round up. And then the ink by Diamine. And it's Peach Punch. And then I'll just write a sentence. I'm not reviewing the pens today, but I say I just thought it'd be nice to show them writing a little bit. So this was, I'll tell you what I will do. At the top here, I'm going to write what it is. Cartridge converter. So now I should be fired. I've got the brain the size of a peanut today. So let's get that out of the way. We're going to look now at our second filling mechanism. This one is in this pen. This is a TWSBI Diamond 580. Gorgeous pen. Well, they're all gorgeous pens, to be honest. So this is a piston mechanism. It's actually very similar to that cartridge converter, except rather than being in a separate unit, it's contained here in the body. So the idea is we've got the cap here. As I twist that, it pushes down this piston, keeps going all the way down to the bottom. We hit the bottom, then I would put it into the ink, twist it back up, and then as we can see, it's coming up, and as it comes up, it's drawing the ink behind it. Really simple mechanism, very effective mechanism. The benefit of this, well, it's obvious, you can hold a lot more ink, so you get more in there. Now, you're also not using plastic cartridges. A little bit better for the environment, isn't it? That's one of the downsides if you're always swapping cartridges and never refilling them. That's generating plastic waste. But you're not getting that with the piston filler. One of the downsides, as you can see here, this mechanism, this one takes up about 1/3 of the body. So you're losing that. So because you can't put any ink there, that's got the mechanism. And I have seen some of these pens where the mechanism takes up virtually half of the body. That's a lot to waste. It's a bit more difficult to clean. You know, with the cartridge converter, you can pull it apart, dead simple, as we saw, and I can get that stub nose needle into the converter to give that a clean. With this, it's a bit more difficult. Now, some of them, you can actually take off the end unit here, so you can take off the nib unit, and I do that sometimes, and that lets you then put your stub nose needle in there and get this one cleaned out. But other than that, it's just a case of standing there for ages, going down and up in clean water until you've got it cleaned out. So that's definitely a downside. Another downside is you have to use bottled ink. You can't use cartridges. So that means if you're out and about and it runs out of ink, well, there's not much you can do to try and refill it. You're just stuck with an empty pen. So one of the things I always do, because I like a lot of these piston fillers, I always carry multiple pens with me. But other than that, really, the cons, there's not that many. But there's also not as many pros. Let's see this one being filled. So we'll fetch in Quickie Koala. The ink I'm going to use today is called Winter Spice, as said part of that ink vent calendar. This has got a shimmer in it. I'm hoping it works all right in this pen. Now I know with this pen I can easily take off that section so I can get in and clean it. So what I need to do first is give this a really good mix. I want to get all that shimmer from the bottom of the ink into suspension. Okay, so hopefully that's all now in the suspension. Let's take off the cap. A bit bubbly there on the top. Okay, so we'll push that mechanism down. This is where we hope it fits. If I can get this onto an angle without spilling ink everywhere, and then here comes some ink. That's drying it up. As you can see there, that's sucking that ink up. Let's just clean this off and get rid of the ink. Fetching the notebook of testing. So here we have a TWSBI Diamine 580. With a broad nib, and this cost 72 Australian dollars. That's a big jump, isn't it? And it is one of the things that you find piston filler pens can be more expensive than cartridge converters. The ink, Diamine Winter Spice, nice brown ink, and hopefully we might see some of that blue shimmer coming through. I'll do a sentence. Again, I forgot to write what it is, so I'm going to put here Piston. We're not looking at the pens. This isn't a pen review today. It's looking at the filling mechanism. But even so, you know, I can start seeing some of that blue shimmer coming through. It's a nice pen to use. Yeah, look at the N on diamond. We've got some nice blue coming through there. So this is the piston filler. The next mechanism, a little bit similar to the piston filler. This one's a vacuum filler. So for this, I'm using a TWSBI Vac700R. You can already see one of the issues with this. I've cleaned this, but you can still see a little bit of colour coming through from the previous ink, even though I've rinsed this through maybe even 24 times and put it through an ultrasonic cleaner. But how this filling mechanism works, it uses the idea of vacuum on negative pressure. So I'm unscrewing this top here, and how the vacuum filler works is you pull out the plunger. So you pull it all the way up to the top. So that's been pulled all the way up. We've got a very tight fitting plunger in there. Then what you do is you put it in the ink and then slowly press down. I can feel a bit of pressure as I'm pressing down. And what it's doing, because this is a very tight fitting plunger, it's building a vacuum up here behind it. So as you push it down, it's building more and more vacuum. Then when it gets near the bottom, just about here, inside you can see it widens out, which means that the plunger goes down into that wider space. It takes the pressure off and this bottom part does snap very quickly. That releases this vacuum, which then draws the ink up and usually fills about half full. You can get this body completely full. It's a bit fiddly, but it's possible to do it. I only worry about getting it half full because I like to change my ink quite often. Now, the other benefit with this, and a lot of vacuum fillers, as you can see, we've got the plunger there. So I've pushed it down as far as it'll go. Now, watch this as I twist the cap. As I twist the cap, it goes down. And what it's doing, that's sealing off the section from the body. So should you have an issue, say you're flying, you've got a pressure issue, you're not going to lose all that ink out of the nib. You're only going to lose maximum what's in the section. So let's undo this and we'll fill this one up. So fetching the holder. What I'm going to use today for this is Red Robin. I haven't used this ink for ages, so I thought I'll use this one. I've got to be honest, that's the same with all these inks, which is why I thought I'm going to use all Inkvent inks in this. So pop that in there. Okay, let's draw out the plunger. I'm going to put this slightly on an angle, so hopefully you can see it as I fill. So I start pushing down the plunger. I'm hoping here, see if I get there, that's a better angle. I'm hoping I don't have ink bubbling out all over the spot. That's another benefit of using this holder. If ink does come out, it just goes out into the holder. Getting near the bottom. Did you hear it click? And then the ink sucked in. We've got a nice fill in there as well, about half full, so I was quite pleased with that. Again, I'm going to wipe off the pen and we'll get rid of this ink. So there's the bottle. Oh, fortunately nothing leaked out, that's good. Let's fetch in the notepad of testing. Okay, this time I'm going to remember to put the name, which is a vacuum fill. Helps if I can spell vacuum filler. So this is a TWSBI Iris. Again, we've got a broad nib, $130. Ink is Diamine Red Robin. The biggest pro to this over the piston filler, because the mechanism isn't taking up a lot of the body, this can hold an awful lot of ink. But as I showed you, it's a little bit more tricky to fill because you've got to get that vacuum going. But once that's going, this is really nice. It holds massive amount of ink. Just do a sentence. Nice writing pen. Again, as you can see, we've got another nice ink here. This is one of the benefits of doing something like this, because I'm forcing myself to experiment with inks. Okay, the fourth main one we're going to look at, this is the last one we're going to do any writing samples with. So this is a Moonman. It says Moonman. And this is an S5. This one is an eyedropper filler. It's another one like the previous two, bottled ink only. It holds an awful lot of ink. Now on this one, this bottom part here, this is solid, so you can't fill the whole thing. I do have some where all the way down to about here is body, so you can get masses of ink in here. My other main eyedropper filling pen, that's a Opus 88 Coloro. It's currently got ink in it. The ink in there normally lasts about 3 months. That's how much ink it holds. It's easy to clean because it's an eyedropper. So all you do to clean it, well, to be honest, the same with filling it, you unscrew the body from the section. That's where the ink goes, so you can get in there, you can clean that really easily. Same with cleaning this out, you can just put in your bulb syringe and clean it out really simple. Nice, easy, quick to clean. Easy to fill, which we'll show you in a second. Now, it does take a little bit of getting used to fill these because you're trying to control either an eyedropper or a blunt nose syringe. I usually use a syringe. I find that works better. Some of them have shut-off valves. This doesn't. My Opus 88 Chloro does. So that's similar with the vacuum filler. If the shut-off valve is there, it makes it easier for travelling. One thing to always remember though, open your shut-off valve to start writing. That's something I keep forgetting to do. Definitely very fiddly to fill when you're on the go. So we're going to ink this one up. I'm going to use Diamine Yuletide for this. Let's pop that in the holder. So the first thing I do, as you can see, I take the pen apart. I then dip the pen in the ink. No, I don't. I dip the syringe in the ink. And then I draw some ink up into the syringe. Hopefully you can see that ink there. Then pop the syringe in. And this is a bit I struggle with. Very gently. There we go. We're ejecting the ink from that syringe. Let's give it a little bit more ink. I should have measured the amount of ink I'm putting in here. There we go. That's loads of ink. I squirted the excess back into the bottle. And then, if I can find where I put it, there we go. I put the section on. Now, this is one of the problems again with this. I now need to give time for that ink to get down into the nib. So I put the cap on. I'm going to now leave that stud on end. Hopefully it might balance like that. If not, now I'll put it off camera. So that's stood on end. I'm going to leave it like that for a few minutes until the ink starts flowing through. And the only way to find that out is to scribble on a bit of paper. So I'll be back in a few minutes and we'll continue with the video. Whilst that's sitting there trying to get the ink through, I'm just going to quickly show you the fifth pen. Now, I'm not going to put any ink in this, and I'll explain why when we get to it. So this is a pen BBS 487. This is a magnetic filler. So what we've got here, if I take the cap off, the top of the cap, this metal disc, that's actually a magnet. Then inside the top of the body, hopefully you can see this metal disc here. That's the plunger. So the idea with this pen, you attach the top of the cap to the plunger and then you draw the plunger down to the bottom and then draw it back up using magnetism. I think it's a really nifty idea, which is why I got the pen. The one issue I've got with this, it just does not work. No matter what I do, I cannot get this to shift. Worked perfectly fine the first time I used it, but after that, this is just stuck there. It will not move no matter what I do. So that's why I'm not going to show you it being filled, because what I do to fill this, I eyedropper fill it. Takes a lot of ink. Very similar to the eyedropper, to be honest. It takes a massive amount of ink. And I have had this last a year on one fill. It's only a fine nib, but still, it's a really nice pen to use. So I just thought I'd mention that. Now, there are loads of other filling mechanisms. I don't have any examples of them, which is why I'm not using them. So this page here, this is just a little bit of what I've just been doing to try and get this pen to write. This is the downside with this. I've got no way to try and prime the feed. So I was scribbling away with the nib because it just wasn't flowing down. It was getting nowhere. What I did is I dipped the nib in the ink. And that then here, as you can see, this is where I was scribbling. There was nothing coming out. Then we started getting some going. And then now we've hopefully got the ink flowing quite nicely. This is a very, very horrible nib. I may need to do a bit of time with this nib. Although it looks like there's no tipping material on it. So that could be the issue. It's very, very scratchy. Right, let's fetch in the notepad of testing. Okay, so we've got here an eyedropper. So we've got a Moonman, homage on, Man S5. I think this is a broad nib on here. It looks quite stubbish to me, and certainly, as I say, there doesn't seem to be a lot of tipping material. This cost me 37 Aussie dollars. The ink, Diamine Yuletide. I do need to spend a little bit of time working on this nib. It's very, very stretchy. But we're not here to talk about the pen anyway, so I'll pop that to one side. So this is where we looked at 4 different filling mechanisms. We looked at a cartridge converter, we looked at a piston, a vacuum or a negative pressure, an eyedropper, and then my bonus, I'll put over the top, which is that magnetic filler. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on filling mechanisms? As I say, I know I've missed some. Why not drop a comment down below? What other mechanisms are there around? And are they worth actually using? What are they like when you compare them to other mechanisms that most people are aware of? Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.